Today, Matt Walsh Show, Jimmy Kimmel lied and defamed Charlie Kirk and his supporters, and now he's been kicked off the air. Of course, the left is treating this like a national tragedy. To them, a far greater tragedy than the actual murder of an innocent man. We'll talk about that. Also, Nancy Mace moves to censure Ilhan Omar. The Muslim mayor of Dearborn tells a citizen that although he lives in the city, he isn't welcome there. It's funny because I feel exactly the same way about the mayor. We'll discuss all of that and more today on the Matt Walsh Show. Are you drowning in credit card and loan debt? Well, you're not alone, but here's something most people don't know. September is actually the best time to negotiate with your lenders. Why September? Well, credit card companies and lenders are doing year-end accounting and desperately need to clear problem accounts from their books before audits begin. This creates a narrow window where they're far more willing to cut deals than any other time of year. Done with Debt has cracked the code on this timing advantage. They know exactly which companies are most motivated to negotiate right now and use this insider knowledge to get results you can't achieve on your own. The best part, no bankruptcy, no new loans, no credit damage. In fact, most clients end up with more money in their pocket within the first month because they're no longer drowning in minimum payments. But the September window won't stay open forever. Once Q4 hits, lenders lighten up again and your leverage disappears. Get started now while you still have time. Go to donewithdebt.com and talk with one of their specialists for free. Visit donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. 8 days after the murder of Charlie Kirk, it's time to get specific about what actions need to be taken in order to prevent any more conservatives from being hunted in this country. Now, it's true, as we discussed yesterday, that there are several indications that Charlie's killer did not act alone. And at the moment, the FBI says that it's looking into additional suspects, including the people who predicted that the shooting would occur several days in advance on social media. But even if a domestic LGBT terror cell is uncovered in this case, prosecuting them isn't going to be enough. It's a necessary step, but at the same time, it's nowhere near sufficient. If we want to ensure that conservatives have the right of free expression, we need to dismantle hundreds, if not thousands, of left-wing terror networks all across the country, as we've been saying all week. But, it's one thing to say something like that. It's one thing to rail against left-wing NGOs and trans activists over and over again until everybody gets bored and moves on and nothing is accomplished. To get anything done, of course, you need evidence of actual criminal activity. You need some kind of smoking gun. And despite what the Attorney General might claim, hate speech does not qualify as criminal activity. Mocking Charlie Kirk's death, as virtually everyone on the left is doing, is obviously reprehensible. It's disgusting. It's demonic. But in most cases, it's not illegal. What is illegal, on the other hand, is planning, funding, organizing, and otherwise abetting riots, harassment, property destruction, economic sabotage, murder, and so on. Those are the kinds of activities that, under RICO law, are actually very easy to prosecute. If an organization exists to repeatedly engage in criminal activity like this, the whole organization can be shut down and everybody involved can be hauled to prison. The president himself has invoked the RICO law recently in public appearances as a potential way to dismantle some of the left's biggest and most powerful institutions. And the other day, a researcher named Ryan Mauro with the Capital Research Center outlined exactly what those prosecutions could look like. He provided what appears to be a smoking gun, or at least the first of many, many smoking guns that will soon follow. It was a very important report that's worth highlighting because it moves beyond rhetoric and gets us much closer to actual tangible results. So here's part of that report. Quote, since 2016, George Soros' Open Society Foundation, OSF, now run with his son Alexander, has poured over $80 million into groups tied to terrorism or extremist violence. Open Society has spent millions of dollars into U.S.-based organizations that engage in direct action that the FBI defines as domestic terrorism. These groups include the Center for Third World Organizing and its militant partner Ruckus Society, which trained activists in property destruction and sabotage during the 2020 riots, and the Sunrise Movement, which endorsed the Antifa-linked Stop Cop City campaign, in which activists currently face over 40 domestic terrorism charges and 60 racketeering indictments. Open Society awarded $18 million to the Movement for Black Lives, a group that instructs activists in the use of false IDs, blockades, and economic disruption. Now, the report adds that, according to Mauro's investigation, quote, Open Society rewarded at least $23 million to 7 groups that engage in or materially assist violence, property destruction, economic sabotage, harassment, and other criminality that meets the FBI's definition of domestic terrorism. Now, just to expound on one of those organizations, the Ruckus Society, as the name implies, reportedly suggests in their own training material that they encourage certain types of illegal activities. According to Influence Watch, these training materials instruct members on, quote, tactics to resist the unjust system. Some of these may be legal strategies, while others may be outside of the law, such as the use of civil disobedience. Now, to be very clear, under federal law, nonprofits are not allowed to engage in any form of partisan political activity, much less criminal activity. So we're potentially talking about tax crimes here in addition to everything else. There could be layers upon layers of criminal activity going on, and it happens so often that you probably don't even think about it or realize the extent of the problem. For example, you probably don't remember this scene from San Francisco last year. Rioters stormed the Golden Gate Bridge, and they blocked traffic, including ambulances, from going anywhere for hours. And guess what? It wasn't a random group of leftists who decided to do this. A woman named Ellen Caminiti served as a spokeswoman for the rioters, and her day job, as it turns out, is serving as a communications director at a nonprofit called National Center for Lesbian Rights. So she takes tax-exempt money from the lesbian nonprofit, then stages a criminal takeover of a major bridge during work hours. And of course, the lesbian nonprofit had no problem with this because this is the entire purpose of left-wing nonprofits. For the most part, they're engineered to organize and fund lawlessness under the cover of law. Multiply this incident by about 1 million, and you begin to get a sense of the scale of the problem. There is a vast network of well-funded left-wing NGOs that, if you look below the surface and get past their mission statement and are intent, you see that they are intent on undermining and destroying the United States. If you're somebody who likes to find conspiracies, well, here it is. This is it. Here's another example, which Andy No reported over the summer. Michael Backus is a 46-year-old trans activist and prostitute from Houston who dresses like a girl. And according to No, the man, quote, has been standing outside the courthouse in downtown Portland recording people to try to intimidate witnesses who testify in the injunction hearing to enforce sound ordinances at the anti-ICE Antifa riots. Supposedly, he's often armed as well. Now, you can see what this looks like on your screen. We'll spare you some of the more unsettling photographs of this particular trans prostitute, but you can imagine. This is a deranged individual. This is a psychopath who's reportedly, there intimidating people near the courthouse to advance some kind of open borders agenda. And guess what? This person has apparently received financial support from yet another left-wing nonprofit. No reports that this prostitute has, quote, received thousands in grant money from a trans 501c3 for cosmetic surgery. Disturbingly, the Point of Pride nonprofit describes Backus's child prostitution past as if it was normal. Now, this kind of thing is very, very common, and it needs to be shut down immediately. Nonprofits should not be allowed to fund known criminals, much less known criminals who are engaging in acts of intimidation outside of federal courthouses. And even beyond that, nonprofits shouldn't be allowed to fund sex changes for mentally disturbed individuals who think that they're transgender. That's another problem we could put an end to overnight, and it's time to do so. Now, if you want to read Ryan Mauro's full report, and you should, it's on the website of the Capital Research Center. You can read more about how various organizations have received millions of dollars from entities connected to George Soros and then used that money to endorse Antifa coalitions that have, quote, engaged in arson, property damage, and violence against law enforcement and personnel and utility workers to try to stop construction of this local police training center. Attacks include setting a police vehicle ablaze, throwing Molotov cocktails, bricks and rocks at police, setting construction equipment on fire, blocking roads with obstacles like tires, harming police officers' eyes with lasers, and attacking the Atlanta Police Foundation's building with fireworks. And on and on. Dozens of charges, including domestic terrorism and racketeering, have been filed in these cases. The evidence is well established, and now it's time to act on it. This is a crackdown that should commence without any hint of hesitation whatsoever. It should be lawful but forceful. We have control of the federal government. We have the support of the majority of the American people, and we are morally justified. On our side, we don't celebrate cold-blooded murder. We don't glorify political assassinations. We don't deny the reality of biology or encourage the mutilation and sterilization of children. We have every conceivable mandate to dismantle these criminal enterprises. And we need to carry out that mandate using the full weight of the federal government. The momentum is ours.